Now, in terms of the shaping, a lot of people tend to prefer a belt sander or some kind of electrical power tool, but that's not really my style. I find you can get a lot better boomerang if you actually build it with hand tools. So I tend to use something like this. This is a Rasp for the initial shaping of the boomerang. It's got a very rough surface on the one side, and it's got a somewhat smoother surface on the opposite side to smooth that out. Another handy thing is 4-in-1 Rasp such as this. It's got like a rounded rough side, and then on this section it's got a rounded file, and on the opposite side of it it's got a flat rough side here and a smooth file. Another thing I like to use, or you'll probably need, is a rounded file such as this. It's got one side that's flat and the other side is rounded, and that'll help you to do like the interior curves here. So you'll need something round in order to file those properly. The thing I prefer to use is the Rasp to do the initial shaping. So just have at it. Basically, that is a leading edge finished. You have rounded off that edge so that well, the air flows over it smoothly. And as you'll see, I avoided the orange line here. I don't know if it's visible on the camera, but the high point line, I tried not to file that. So that edge is basically done. So now I can do the other edge here. So we'll keep filing away until you get right up to the line. You try not to erase it like I have here. If that ever does happen, just take a marker and draw it back in. There, now we have two leading edges. One here, and the other one here. So, making progress. Here I have my oak boomerang. It's now got one leading edge done on this wing, the rest of it is unfinished. And on this wing, here's the leading edge that's carved just using the Rasp here, the rough side of the Rasp. And I've also done the trailing edge. Forgive me for not showing you the entire process of carving the trailing edge using the Rasp, but it takes forever. There's quite a bit more material to take off the trailing edge than there is off the leading edge. So the idea is to have a smooth curve from the highest point of the wing, which you see I've scraped over a little bit, but I've kept it intact. You want a smooth curve from there to the edge on both sides. The trailing edge, you want it to almost be flat, but just a tiny bit of a curve to cut down on wind resistance. I'll try to show you on edge. Here's the highest point, here's the leading edge, and this bit from the highest point to where my thumb is the trailing edge. And it's pretty flat along that length with just a little bit of a curve. See, up here is where I haven't touched yet. So my next step is to file down the trailing edge on this side and get it nice and sharp. Like ideally you want you would want both edges to be sharp, but to catch a leading edge when it's sharp is kind of dangerous and painful and causes you to bleed. So it's a good idea to round this leading edge off. And on the trailing edge you can make it nice and sharp. The air likes it, and the trailing edge isn't going to be a part that comes flying at you. If a part of the boomerang is going to hit you, it'll always be the leading edge, because that's the way it spins. So we'll file away. As you can see, it takes quite a bit longer to do the trailing edge than it does the leading edge. I haven't even reached the line yet, and I'm only working in this tiny little space. And I need to get that down to about 1 millimeter thick at this edge. So it's going to take a while to do this trailing edge. That's why I'm not causing you to suffer through this. Alrighty. So here we have both wings. I've pretty much got their completed leading edge and trailing edge. And again on this side I got my leading edge and trailing edge, and I've left this line that I've drawn on top pretty much untouched. That's the whole point. Now all I've got left is this little bit more complex portion up at the top here. I have to make this whole thing into one wing, which travels in that direction. Now I've got all the leading edges and trailing edges on this boomerang filed down. Okay, so here's my oaken boomerang. All the shaping you see here has been done using solely a rasp and a bandsaw to cut out the basic shape. This is a rasp. Now that I've got my basic shape established, I'm going to be switching from the rasp to I believe this is called a bastard file. It's rounded on one side. It's got cuts going in 2 directions and flat on the other side. This will allow you to do both concave curves such as this one and convex curves such as this one. Alright, now we'll outline the procedures necessary to make the plastic boomerangs. You can file them with a rasp, just like you did the wooden ones. Now I warn you, these plexiglass boomerangs take considerably longer to make than the wooden ones because it's a much harder material. But they work quite well. Very consistent weight, and they're quite rugged. One method you can use to shape these is actually with a blade, using it like a cabinet scraper. You just hold it along the edge. It sounds absolutely horrible, but it's actually pretty much the quickest way I've found of shaping plexiglass. I'm just using a knife here, but instead of cutting with the blade like you normally would, you hold it up vertically against it and scrape it along the surface, and it ends up taking off nice big long shavings such as these. And you just continue with that as you would with the wooden one. And one problem with the plexi is when you use power tools with this stuff, it tends to heat the plexiglass up, turns it into a paste, and then it ends up caking up on here. It's hard to remove once it hardens. And the blade, it keeps it nice and cool. And the file I used for this was the rat tail file. Now this one is just like the half round file that I used prior, but this one is fully round, as you can see. And one advantage of this file is that it allows you to place a great deal of pressure on the point you're trying to file, which helps in rounded areas such as this. So a lot of surface area there to take care of, and this helps you to provide the amount of pressure necessary to do it. Now this is the only part remaining of this boomerang that hasn't been filed down yet into an airfoil, and after that the thing is pretty much done. All these other edges here, they've been gone over with this file, and also I used the cabinet scraper, or basically just a razor blade to scrape down the surfaces and smooth them out. Now, since that's the last bit left, I'll take care of that, and then we'll smooth it all out with the cabinet scraper, and from there we can move on to finer grits of sandpaper, starting at around 220. Still doing some secondary filing. That edge is pretty much done now, so I'll move on to the other wing. Alrighty, so there. Now I've got both leading edges done with the secondary filing process. Got them nice and smooth, relatively straight along the length. Like at this point we want to try to remove any wobbles that might be present in the original rasping of the wood. As far as I can feel, it's pretty smooth. I'll just work on the crotch of it for a little bit here. Now I have to do the trailing edges with the same file. Again, on concave areas, sections such as this one, I'll use the rounded edge of the file. And on straighter areas, such as that, I'll use the flat edge of the file. And eventually, at some point during your filing process, you'll want to just erase this line. Don't go overboard, just file enough so that you can get rid of it. And that point in the process would be this point, because at this point you're pretty much done shaping, you're just smoothing. Okay, so as you can hopefully see, these two boomerangs are just about done. Got all the lines shaved off them, and the top profile is shaped like an airfoil, as it should be. And here we have the near completed boomerangs in closer detail. One thing you'll note about the plywood boomerang, which makes it a very good material to work with, is as you shave through the various plies of plywood, topography of the shape that you're carving will start to appear in these lines here. Notice on the leading edge, which is about this section right here, the lines are all closely spaced. And on the trailing edge, the lines here are quite far apart. Same applies for this side. I ended up shaving the top layer completely off of this side and almost right through the second layer, which was kind of an accident, but it will still work. Now, this boomerang, the shape is not as easily visible as it is with the plywood one, but it's still got an airfoil shape in the appropriate sections. Like this is a leading edge right here, trailing edge on this side, and there's a small leading edge here, small trailing edge there, and this is a leading edge, and that's a trailing edge. Now to get them to this nearly finished state, what I've done is first gone at them with the Rasp here. Once that was done, I've did a combination of these two files. This is the half round, and this one is a little bit larger to I use them to finally smooth it all out and remove the tool marks from the other files. Because these big teeth on the Rasp, they make deep marks in the wood. So use this to get rid of those marks. And once you've got it all nice and smooth, you feel along the length. And if there's any bumps or corners, you want to try to eliminate that. It should be perfectly smooth right across. So there is a little bit of a point here at the peak of this wing. So I'll just pass the file over. Actually, I'm past that step. Sandpaper. And that's kind of diminished now. So it should be nice and round. You shouldn't feel any sharp corners on the top of your airfoil. And of course, the bottom has nothing. It's perfectly flat.